Okay, thank you, everybody. This is a public information meeting for the intersection improvements of US 30 and Nebraska Highway 79. So just want to thank you all for coming out. Great attendance. Really appreciate you all coming out. So for our agenda today, we're going to do a little project overview, and we'll talk about why an RCAT, what it is and that, and then we'll talk about our next steps. And again, like it says, our purpose of this meeting is to get feedback from all of you. We'll tell you what we're looking at for this project, and we really need your feedback and want to hear from you, your thoughts on that. So we'll start off with the project location. The project is located at the new US 30 Expressway and Nebraska Highway 79 intersection. It's about 1.5 miles north of the city of North Bend in Dodge County. The purpose of the project is to reduce the frequency and severity of crashes, improve the transportation reliability of the transportation system, and improve mobility for the traveling public. Now, the need for this project was based off of feedback we received from the City of North Bend, the North Bend School Board, and the North Bend Chamber of Commerce, who commented to us about their concerns with students crossing at the intersection of Nebraska 79 and the US 30 Expressway. And one of the main concerns was the increased speed of the US 30 Expressway. What NDOT is proposing is a restricted crossing U-turn or RCAT at this location. With the increased speed on the new US 30 Expressway and the anticipated increase in the volumes along the expressway and at the intersection, NDOT believes that this is the best solution for this location. RCATs have a reduced number of conflict points compared to a traditional intersection, such as a signalized intersection or a stop control intersection. And also, studies have shown that an RCAT has a reduced frequency and severity of crashes at high-speed rural intersections. So let's take a look at the RCAT first, what our extent is in that. We've got the displays back there for you to look at as well when we're done with the presentation. But just quickly, you can see here's our intersection. We have what we call our bulb outs on the west and the east sides, where you would utilize that to make a U-turn. You can see the island in the middle of the intersection that prevents people that are traveling to either go straight through the intersection or from doing a left turn. And then the other thing that we have out here is these islands on the north and the south. Those islands, you can't really tell here. You can see on the displays back there, but you can see that we've kind of turned those islands a little bit to the right. Okay, and our reason for that is to give another visual cue for the drivers that you can't do that straight through the intersection or make a left turn. With that island turn to the right, tells them that they have to make that right turn and then utilize the bulb outs here to make their different movements that they have. The cost of this project is our estimate is less than $600,000, and it's being paid for with state funds. So why an RCAT intersection? I'm going to go over a little bit. Here's what an RCAT is. As you can see, here's our expressway system right here. Cars are approaching on the other roadway here. Normally they would have, at a normal intersection, traditional intersection, they'd be going straight through, or they'd be able to make a left turn. With that island we have there, we prevent that movement. So what they would do is they'd come up to here, they'd make a right turn, maneuver over to that inside lane, utilize that turn lane that we have in the median, and then utilize that bulb out that we build there. And then they would, and then they would either continue on the expressway where they would have before done a left turn, or they'd utilize the right turn lane where they would have gone with the through movement. Now, as I mentioned before, RCATs have a reduced number of conflict points compared to a traditional intersection. At a traditional intersection where through movements and left turns are allowed, you can see that we have 42 potential conflict points. In an RCAT design, we only have 24 without those left turns or the through movements. Also, as we mentioned, research has shown that RCATs reduce the number and severity of crashes. North Carolina DOT has 94 RCATs throughout the state, and they all have various intersection volumes. And based off of research that they have done, they have seen a 59% reduction in total crashes, and they've seen a 71% reduction in fatal and injury accident or crashes. And Minnesota, Maryland, and Missouri also have RCATs, and they've seen similar reduction in their numbers as well. RCATs also can reduce the travel time that you have compared to a traditional intersection. At a traditional intersection that you have, you're having to wait for both directions of travel to clear, or you're waiting for a signal to turn. With the RCAT, as we mentioned, you have that one lane that you have to have cleared, then you go over there and make your maneuver there. And as we all know, the more time you have to wait, the more gas you're using, and it's a little bit, it saves you some money as well. Now, the first RCAT that Nebraska had was at the intersection of US 81 and Nebraska Highway 91 near Humphrey. That was began operations in November of 2020. Now, before that was operational, the 5-year period before that it went into operation, we had 24 recorded crashes. The RCAT has been operational for basically a year now, and so far we've had 0 recorded crashes. We also completed a survey recently with the people in the area of the RCAT there around Humphrey and that stuff. Wanted to ask them their thoughts about the RCAT now that it's been operational for a year. And so one of the questions we asked was their opinion about the RCAT intersection. Before we had the RCAT in place, 80% of the people were hesitant or somewhat hesitant about the RCAT. Now with our survey, we see that 50% of the people are somewhat supportive or supportive of the RCAT. One of the other questions we asked about it was the intersection safety, how they felt the intersection safety was now that the RCAT was in place. And as you can see with this pie chart, over 75% of the people feel that the overall intersection safety is increased or somewhat increased with the RCAT intersection. Now, at the RCAT that's at Humphrey, it worked well for vehicles and that, but we did have an issue with semis. When they were making that turn, with the way we built the one at Humphrey, they were running off the pavement there, what we call off-tracking. And so what we did was we had an additional 4 feet onto that to assist with that issue that we had with the off-tracking. And so we've initially made this 10 feet wider than what was built at the Humphrey RCAT. Now just want to do a comparison of the 2 RCATs as well. So these are also on the tables back there for you to look at as well if you can't really see it too well. The red dashed line here is what was built with the Humphrey RCAT, and the yellow shaded area is what we have for our RCAT that we are planning to build here at North Bend. So you can see we're a lot wider there with that RCAT. So I'm going to kind of go back and forth between the next slide and this one to go through our comparison. One of the things I wanted to say was, we received the comments back from, the city and the school board and the Chamber of Commerce. A couple weeks ago, we met with them to discuss this and got a lot of great feedback at that point and a lot of great suggestions as well. So to go through the comparison, the first one is the wider bulb out to help us make the turns and make it easier for trucks to turn. Like I said, initially we went to that meeting and showed them, and there was a couple gentlemen there that said they had talked with people at the Humphrey intersection, or at the Humphrey RCAT, and they had mentioned with even that 4 foot, they said they were still having issues with some off-tracking. And so they said, whatever you can do to make it as wide as you can, that's what we'd like to see. And so that's what we did. Our 2 design gentlemen, they went back, saw what they could do to stay within the existing right-of-way. And so we're actually, can't read the numbers there, the RCAT at Humphrey is 97 feet, and we're at 115 feet wide. And you can see here from the lines how much wider we are with the actual bulb out itself as well. Also, it's designed for a faster, we have a 15-mile-per-hour U-turn design there. So we flattened this out. You can see how this was, I don't know if you can see that very well. You'll be able to see it on the displays back there. They designed this Humphrey one for, I believe 10 miles per hour. They made this kind of tight. And I think we were also having issues with trucks trying to make that turn tighter as well. And so what we did was we designed this for 15 miles per hour. We flattened this out a little bit more. So that would, we believe that'll have, the trucks will be able to make that turn and utilize the bulb out more and be able to go a little bit faster than they can at the Humphrey RCAT. And be able to get through that, get across the lanes of traffic a little bit sooner. We also added some additional lighting near the bulb outs for increased visibility. So you can see here, these are in blue. We're adding some additional lighting around the bulb out here to give some more visibility during that, around the bulb out. Then the last item there was we extended what's called the auxiliary lane to tie the bulb out to the right turn lane. And this was I should mention this too, sorry. Like I said, we had that, but also the additional lighting was also a comment that came out of our meeting with the school board, the city, and also the Chamber of Commerce. And this last one here too was a great idea. This came out of that meeting as well, tying that in. But what we had before was, you can see on the Humphrey RCAT, they're making that turn, and then they're coming here, and then they're going directly back into the lanes of traffic, okay? And then what happens is, if they move back over to the lanes of traffic, but then what happens is, if they're gonna turn right, then they go into the right turn lane and make that right turn, okay? So what we did was, based off that suggestion that we had, we ended up having the bulb out here, and we extended this auxiliary lane, is what we're calling it, to the right turn lane. So when that vehicle makes that turn, they'll be able to straighten out and then be able to use their side mirror and make sure that traffic is clear and not going directly into the lanes of traffic like we have over here on the Humphrey. They'll be able to use that auxiliary lane and then see if they have the room to make the move over into the lanes of traffic, or they can just stay right there and stay in the right turn lane, or stay in that lane and take the right turn. Like I said, that was a great suggestion that we got from our meeting with the school board, council, Chamber of Commerce, and the city. The last thing I want to mention is the speed. The speed on an expressway system would be 70 miles per hour. At the RCAT, we're going to do the same thing that we did at the Humphrey RCAT. The speed's going to be reduced to 60 miles per hour through that section. As far as right-of-way, we don't need, I mentioned it before, there won't be a need for additional right-of-way on the project. We're able to build this project without having to purchase any additional right-of-way. We will need, as we talked about the lighting, we're building some lighting around the bulb outs, but also there's some lighting around here where we have the right turns and stuff that are going to we'll need to move. And so as far as culverts are concerned, like that, we're not going to have to do any drainage work. We're not going to have to move any culverts at all. So real quick, next steps that we have for the project, we have our public meeting that we're holding right now. Comments we receive and suggestions and that stuff, we'll take a look at those. We plan on having our final design completed by the end of December. And then we plan on construction starting in the spring of 2022. And we anticipate it to be completed by the fall of 2022. For questions in that, what we'd like to do, we know a lot of you have questions in that, so what we'd like to do is just, we'll have people at each one of these tables and that stuff to answer questions in that. So, you know, if we want to now, I appreciate you all coming and attending this with us, and appreciate the feedback, and please stay, take a look at the tables there, and we'll answer your questions there as well. Thank you.